Hi, this is Cam Calderon, and this week we are going to go over the topic of forecasting techniques. So it's going to be like an introduction to the forecasting techniques, and in week 8 we are going to start properly into reviewing each forecasting technique. Before that, I consider very useful to make like a recap here because the session on partitions is key for you to understand what we are going to do. So let's go to my full desktop and I will explain this. So here I am in the making a recap of my previous session on performance and analysis. I recall that I had a seminar in which we downloaded a data set on the deaths for coronavirus, and it was something like this. Yes, around that, and then we forecasted the next peak of the next peak and the number of deaths of this second wave. Yes, and this one was the first wave. Yes. So the idea of making this recap is to explain what a training period is and what is a validation period. Okay, so we need to divide this data set, which is in the y-axis. I'm going to type deaths, yes, and in the x-axis time, which is given in actually days, yes, following this example. So where can I put my training period in order to beta forecast the future? So I recall that we have this red data, not the dotted data. So what we need to do is to divide this red data, this uninterrupted red data, in two. So I consider that probably the best way to make a training like a partition is around here. Yes. Let's make a partition around here. And I'm going to say that this partition is the training period. And this partition, this segment up until here, this is going to be my validation period. Yeah. So in my training period, I am going to to test, if you want, my forecasts. So I use SNAIF previously, so I can actually use a fitted line of the forecast of this. Yes, let's say that this dotted line is a SNAIF. Yes, but I also use like a normal naive forecast, the previous observation. Yes, something like this, right? So what I need to do is what forecast is better in order to get to know what is going to be the forecast that I will use here in the validation period. So imagine that after doing or running these two forecasts, naive and seasonal naive, yes, I decided that my S naive forecast is the best. How can I decide that? I will decide that if the errors, this is the distances between my forecast and the actual value, is closer to zero. Yes, if my errors are closer to zero. So if I am boxing in the training period and I am training, I develop a strategy, and the closer, the more constantly the more accurate I fit the face of my opponent, my errors will be zero. It's exactly the same as here. Yes. So if my forecast is closer to this line, therefore I will choose a certain forecast, right? And then what I do is to use the S naive. In this case, let's imagine that we decided that S naive is the best forecast because it minimizes the errors the most. Yes, and then we will use that forecast in order to forecast here the this segment of the time. And then we compare the validation period with the forecast of the S naive that we decided to choose before. Yes? If everything is fine and if there is not another model that it can challenge this forecast here, if we decide that S naive is the best, yes, then we can forecast the future. I recall that in my previous video in the seminar we didn't do this, but in the future we will. So that is why I want to make this video. Right? So what we are going to do here is to train a lot of forecasts. We compare all the forecasts here, yes, and we decide what is the best forecast, yes. So in the validation period we decide what what is the best forecast, right? And after we decide what is the best forecast, we can predict the future. So there is a big question here. When I am going, or what is going to be this date at which I am going to like make the partition of the training period and the validation period? What would be the right date here? So that is why in the we covered these timelines during the seminar in the previous session. So as you can see, we have here a lot of blue lines, yes, meaning that there is ease of the restrictions. Ease of restrictions. Yes, and we have a lot of red lines here, which are like like they're going to restrict more. They're going to put more regulations for the lockdown. I will write more restrictions. Yes, more restrictions in red. Yes, here. So I will say that a right partition should be somewhere around here. Yes, yes, because as you can see, here is when we start having like a more red lines, and here we have more blue lines. So it's somewhere here in between. I think this actual line is the time in which there are news in which we are seeing more like raves, yes, more like parties that are illegal, yes, but probably that will be some variable that is actually very interesting to understand why we have the second wave. But I do not dare to say whether that is right or not. So as you can see, we can use these timelines, yes, these timelines to decide where I am going, or when, or where I am going to set the partitions times. Yes, so if we decide this news like it can be around here somewhere, so this should be like a good like a place in order to put the um, the partitions, yes, to decide that this is going to be my training period, yes, my training period, and this one can be from here, let's say that is from here to here, my validation period. And once we do that, then we train here many forecasts. We compare the forecasts with all these forecasts with the validation, with what really happens, and then we can decide. Yes, we can decide what is the best forecast. Why? Why we want to do that? In order to forecast the future. Right, guys? Well, I hope that this recap is clear. We next time what we should do is actually make a partition here, like train a lot of forecasts here, many forecasts here, and then use those forecasts in order to compare those forecasts with this actual line. Choose the best forecast by minimizing the errors. The closer the errors are to zero, that is the best forecast, and then we are able to forecast this future. And this is what we want to do in forecasting. I hope that this is clear, guys, and this we are going to work on this like in many occasions now in this course. All right, guys, I finished with this section, the recap, and now we are going to move into forecasting techniques. So the next session is actually introductory, and we will move in the next available lectures into each technique until we arrive to neural networks. See you in my next video about forecasting techniques.